Today on the newscast, is Iran opening a new front to Israel's south? Find out next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. Welcome to the beach. As I mentioned on yesterday's newscast, I am here for a few days for some rest and relaxation with my lovely wife and my two daughters. You might hear some background noise. Obviously, I am outside. I'm not inside of the Watchman studio like I usually would be, but hopefully that doesn't distract you from the news at hand. Now, one thing before we start, I mentioned on yesterday's newscast that we would be doing a live stream today. We're not going to do it today. We are moving the live stream to tomorrow. That's Thursday, July 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to bring your questions for our Q&A session. It's going to be good. A live stream from the beach. This should be interesting. We'll be coming to you tomorrow again for a full hour. Don't miss it. But today we have some pretty important information to share with you. Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz gave a very important speech yesterday, July 5th, in Greece, in which he said, look, the Iranian regime is attempting to open a new front in the Red Sea to Israel's immediate south. Now, let me quote from Defense Minister Gantz directly. He said, quote, Iran is expanding its activities in the maritime arena in general. Over the last year, Iran has seized international tankers and attacked vessels. You know that from watching the newscast. Gantz went on to say that today we can confirm that Iran is methodically basing itself in the Red Sea with warships patrolling the southern region. In the last months, Israel has identified the most significant Iranian military presence in the area in the past decade. It is a direct threat to international trade, energy supply, and the global economy, and a direct threat to peace and stability, which affects the Mediterranean and beyond, according to Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz. That's in the Red Sea, again, to Israel's immediate south, an emerging new front. And Gantz said that 4 warships, Iranian warships, have been seen in the waters of the Red Sea in recent months, an obvious uptick on the part of the Iranian regime. And remember, the Houthis in Yemen are perched along the Red Sea about 1,000 miles south of Israel, and there are concerns that this Iranian proxy, the Houthis, will use their growing arsenal of ballistic missiles and attack drones to attack Israel in the not-so-distant future. So more from the Red Sea. We're going there in a minute with our good friend Elliot Chodoff, Reserve Major for the Israel Defense Forces. We will go on the Red Sea and give you an up-close look and inside analysis on the Iran threat in that region. But first, 2 things to mention before we get to the clip from the Watchman Show. Number one, hey, we are fast approaching 500,000 subscribers here on the channel, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. We would love to have you on board along with our Watchmen and Women on the Wall, nearly 500,000 and growing, and we know you can help us to get there with God's help. Secondly, have to mention Eyal Zamir. Now, he is a candidate to become the Israel Defense Forces' new chief of staff. The current chief of staff, Aviv Kohavi, is stepping aside soon, and Eyal Zamir is one of the leading candidates. He is a fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy in D.C., and he recently wrote a position paper, over 70 pages long, in fact, about how to counter the Iran threat. And he said that Israel should focus on assassinating Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps officials. Hey folks, very interesting. Could it be an even stronger shift in that direction if Eyal Zamir does become the IDF chief of staff? Already in recent months, and we've documented this extensively on the newscast, we've seen Israel take out these Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps officials and various players in that elite unit of the Iranian regime, which really is the fount and the driving force behind Iranian terror in the region and in the world. So Eyal Zamir is saying, hey, we need to hit them at the source and target officials for the IRGC. Very interesting. That's something to keep an eye on if he does indeed become IDF chief of staff. But right now, as mentioned, we are going to head to the Red Sea. My good friend, Israel Defense Forces Reserve Major Elliot Chodoff, and I, a little while back, were able to get on a boat in the Red Sea at the crossroads, really not only of the region but the world, as Elliot will share with you. And he shared what Iran is doing in that strategic waterway, again at Israel's doorstep. Take a look. Elliot, we are here on the Red Sea.
Yes, we are.
At really what I would say one of the most critical crossroads of the Middle East. Set the scene for us right now about where we are and why it's so important.
Well, actually, it's not just a crossroads of the Middle East. We're in a crossroads of the world. We're at the northern end of the Gulf of Eilat, the Gulf of Aqaba by the Jordanian city that's up here, the port. If we continue down beyond that V that's formed by the two gulfs, we're in the Red Sea, which empties out through Bab el-Mandeb, Yemen, Somalia, and out into the Indian Ocean, and from there to the Pacific.
All the hot spots.
All the hot spots, that's right. So essentially from here, whether it's via the Suez Canal in recent decades, centuries, or even earlier, from here up across to the ports on the Mediterranean, today Ashdod and Haifa, in earlier times Ashkelon, from there out to the Atlantic. So we're not only in a crossroads of the continents, we're also in a crossroads of the oceans.
And pretty amazing. Israel is right here, obviously, Elliot, the great resort town of Eilat. There's tourists, beautiful spot for vacation. But you have Eilat, you have Israel, but then right here, where we're looking, this is Egypt.
Yes.
This is Jordan, and over the horizon there is Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Wow.
Right in the middle.
So the proximity, thankfully Israel obviously has peace treaties with Jordan and Egypt.
Yes.
Relations seem to be warming with Saudi Arabia.
Funny how the Iranians have made the Saudis realize that the Zionists aren't their enemy.
Yes, we'll get to that in a minute. Talk about what Iran would like to do in the Red Sea.
In the Red Sea, Iran would like to choke it. And we've already seen the initial, call it the introduction to that story with the Houthi rebels in Yemen. A lot of people, I think, oh, there's a rebellion going on in Yemen. Who cares? Why should that make a difference to me? And a glance at the map will tell you why, because the tip of Yemen is the shore of the entrance to the Red Sea, the southern entrance. And whoever controls those straits, the Bab el-Mandeb Straits, essentially controls the Suez Canal without having to be there. Because if you can't get in or out of the Red Sea, the Suez Canal becomes useless as a dead end.
So Iran's goal, and as America ramps up sanctions and pressure, rightfully so, Iran is threatening to choke off these vital waterways.
Well, so Iran has two choke points, two critical choke points. One, Bab el-Mandeb, which is for global maritime shipping. And the Straits of Hormuz, of course, where just recently there were the unidentified anonymous attacks on the tankers, on the Saudi tankers, which of course we all know was done by Iran, but they'll deny it.
Of course.
And the West, always confusing legal with political issues, says, well, if we don't have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, it doesn't work that way in the strategic world. Right. But they'll deny it. They're investigating it.
They're on it.
But they're showing that they can choke those 2 points. Oil shipment out of the Gulf and general maritime shipping through the canal.
Yeah, Iran has larger aspirations, Elliot, as you and I have talked about many times here on the show. They'd like to get out the Atlantic.
Yes, and that's why they have
flex global muscle.
That's why they have naval bases on the Mediterranean and Syria. Yeah. It's one of the reasons, not the only one, that they're ramping up their presence in Syria so they can have access to those bases. Their interest is global, and once again, they have their anchor on the Indian Ocean. They want it now on the Mediterranean.
Right. Which is why, and look, the Red Sea is in the neighborhood, obviously, vital waterway, which is why it's so vital for Israel, Egypt. Everyone has an interest. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, they all have an interest, the world, in keeping this tame and safe here in the Red Sea. Now, folks, if you like that clip and you want to see more like it, be sure to tune in to the Watchman TV show every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, exclusively on TBN. Hey, as you can see, we're on the Red Sea and points beyond throughout Israel and throughout the Middle East every week for 30 solid minutes. If you like the newscast, you'll love our weekly TV show. And by the way, if you want to be the exclusive or get the exclusive first look at the show before it hits the air, before anyone else sees it, be sure to check out our Watchman Premium membership. Just go to the homepage here on the channel, click on Join, and you'll get all the details. Some of the perks for our premium members include the exclusive first look at every new episode of the show before it airs, and some behind-the-scenes commentary from yours truly. And we've got some other good perks lined up. When I get back from the beach here, we will start some premium member Q&A as well. Hey, if you're not a premium member, don't worry, we still love you, but we want to offer a little something extra for our loyal viewers who are with us faithfully every single day. So that's good stuff. Check that out. Remember, it's Join on the homepage. Until tomorrow, live stream. Thanks for joining us today. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.